Today is June 29th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps to 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are going to continue our journey through Chapter 11, A Vision for You, by reading pages 158 through 160. And out of the 12 and 12, we're on tradition number 12. We're going to be reading page 185. And of course, we're going to read June 29th's entry of the Daily Reflections and 24 hours a day. I'm going to have to get used to that new intro. But yeah, we're cruising right along, almost done with the core text of the Big Book and the 12 and 12. And as I said yesterday, we are definitely going to continue doing the personal stories. I'm just going to do them all in one shot. An entire story for one episode. And I don't know how frequently I'll be able to do it. Or once a week, maybe twice a month, something like that. But haven't forgotten about the stories. And I've got a copy of the first edition of the Big Book as well. And maybe I'll eventually pick some stories from there to read it too. So anyways, I hope you're doing well this morning. Life is good over here. Got a big old cup of coffee and a smile on my face because we're alive today. And we have the opportunity to be sober today. So let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. Okay, so if you remember from yesterday's reading, we are getting this great retrospective of, at first starts off with Bill W. Although they never say their names, we get the footnote at the bottom that explains it. Dr. Bob, and then finally AA number 3, which we know as Bill Dotson. So we're going to continue with the discussion between Dr. Bob, Bill, and Bill Dotson. Page 158. We're going to read to 160 today. On the third day, the lawyer gave his life to the care and direction of his Creator and said that he was perfectly willing to do anything necessary. His wife came, scarcely daring to be hopeful, though she thought that she saw something different about her husband already. He had begun to have a spiritual experience. That afternoon, he put on his clothes and walked from the hospital a free man. He entered a political campaign, making speeches, frequenting men's gathering places of all sorts, often staying up all night. He lost the race by only a narrow margin, but he had found God, and in finding God, he found himself. That was June 1935. He never drank again. He too has become a respected and useful member of his community. He has helped other men recover, and is a power in the church from which he was long absent. So you see, there were 3 alcoholics in that town who now felt that they had to give to others what they had found or be sunk. After several failures to find others, a 4th turned up. He came through an acquaintance who had heard the good news. He proved to be a devil-may-care young fellow whose parents could not make out whether he wanted to stop drinking or not. They were deeply religious people, much shocked by their son's refusal to have anything to do with the church. He suffered horribly from his sprees, but it seemed as if nothing could be done for him. He consented, however, to go to the hospital, where he occupied the very room recently vacated by the lawyer. He had 3 visitors, and after a bit he said, "The way you fellows put this spiritual stuff makes sense. I'm ready to do business. I guess the old folks were right after all." So 1 more was added to the fellowship. All this time, our friend of the hotel lobby incident remained in that town. He was there for 3 months. He now returned home, leaving behind his first acquaintance, the lawyer and the devil-may-care chap. These men had found something brand new in life. Though they knew they must help other alcoholics if they remained sober, the motive became secondary. It was transcended by the happiness they found in giving themselves for others. They shared their homes, their slender resources, and gladly devoted their spare hours to fellow sufferers. They were willing, day or night, to place a new man in the hospital and visit him afterward. They grew in numbers. They experienced a few distressing failures, but in those cases, they made an effort to bring the man's family into a spiritual way of living, thus relieving much worry and suffering. A year and 6 months later, these 3 had succeeded with 7 more. Seeing much of each other, scarce an evening passed that someone's home did not shelter a little gathering of men and women, happy in their release and constantly thinking of how they might present their discovery to some newcomer. In addition to these casual get-togethers, it became customary to set apart one night a week for a meeting to be attended by anyone or everyone interested in a spiritual way of life. Aside from the fellowship and sociability, the prime object was to provide a time and place where new people might bring their problems. Outsiders became interested. One man and his wife placed their large home at the disposal of the strangely assorted crowd. This couple has since become so fascinated that they have dedicated their home to the work. Many a distracted wife has visited this house to find loving and understanding companionship among women who know her problem. To hear from the lips of their husbands what had happened to them. To be advised how her own wayward mate might be hospitalized and approached when next he stumbled. Many a man, yet days from his hospital experience, has stepped over the threshold of that home into freedom. Many an alcoholic who entered there came away with an answer. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside, who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. Impressed by those who visited him at the hospital, he capitulated entirely when, later, in an upper room of his house, he heard the story of some man whose experience closely tallied with his. The expression on the faces of the women, that indefinable something in the eyes of the men, the stimulating and electric atmosphere of the place, conspired to let him know that there was a haven at last. The very practical approach to his problems, the absence of intolerance of any kind, the informality, the genuine democracy, the uncanny understanding which these people had were irresistible. He and his wife would leave elated by the thought of what they could now do for some stricken acquaintance and his family. They knew they had a host of new friends. It seemed that they had known these strangers always. They had seen miracles, and one was to come to them. They had visioned the great reality, their loving and all-powerful Creator. Man, some great stuff here. I hope I have time to come back to this in a minute. All right, my friends, we're moving on to tradition number 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. And we are going to read 185 today. As the AA groups multiplied, so did anonymity problems. Enthusiastic over the spectacular recovery of a brother alcoholic, we'd sometimes discuss those intimate and harrowing aspects of his case meant for his sponsor's ear alone. The aggrieved victim would then rightly declare that his trust had been broken. When such stories got into circulation outside of AA, the loss of confidence in our anonymity promise was severe. It frequently turned people from us. Clearly, every AA member's name, and story too, had to be confidential, if you wished. This was our first lesson in the practical application of anonymity. With characteristic intemperance, however, some of our newcomers cared not at all for secrecy. They wanted to shout AA from the housetops and did. Alcoholics barely dry rushed out bright-eyed, buttonholing anyone who would listen to their stories. Others hurried to place themselves before microphones or cameras. Sometimes they got distressingly drunk and let their groups down with a bang. They had changed from AA members into AA show-offs. This phenomenon of contrast really set us thinking. Squarely before us was the question, how anonymous should an AA member be? Our growth made it plain that we couldn't be a secret society, but it was equally plain that we couldn't be a vaudeville circuit either. The charting of a safe path between these extremes took a long time. As a rule, the average newcomer wanted his family to know immediately what he was trying to do. He also wanted to tell others who tried to help him. His doctor, his minister, his close friends. As he gained confidence, he felt it right to explain his new way of life to his employer and business associates. When opportunities to be helpful came along, he found that he could easily talk about AA to almost anyone. These quiet disclosures helped him to lose his fear of the alcoholic stigma and spread the news of AA's existence to his community. Many a new man and woman came to AA because of such conversations. Though not in strict letter of anonymity, such communications were well within its spirit. All right, so we will stop there in the 12 and 12 today and move on to the Daily Reflections. Daily Reflections, June 29th. A rippling effect. Having learned to live so happily, we'd show everyone else how. Yes, we of AA did dream those dreams. How natural that was, since most alcoholics are bankrupt idealists. So why shouldn't we share our way of life with everyone? From the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 156. The great discovery of sobriety led me to feel the need to spread the good news to the world around me. The grandiose thoughts of my drinking days returned. Later, I learned that concentrating on my own recovery was a full-time process. As I became a sober citizen in this world, I observed a rippling effect which, without any conscious effort on my part, reached any related facility or outside enterprise, without diverting me from my primary purpose of staying sober and helping other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. 24 hours a day, June 29th. AA Thought for the Day. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous involves a continuous striving for improvement. There can be no resting period. We must try to work at it all the time. We must continually keep in mind that it is a program not to be measured in years, because we never fully reach our goals, nor are we ever cured. Our alcoholism is only kept in abeyance by daily living of the program. It is a timeless program in every sense. We live it day by day, or more precisely, moment by moment. Now, am I always striving for improvement? Meditation for the day. Life is all a preparation for something better to come. God has a plan for your life, and it will work out if you try to do His will. God has things planned for you, far beyond what you could imagine now. But you must prepare yourself so that you will be ready for the better things to come. Now it is time for discipline and prayer. The time of expression will come later. Life can be flooded through and through with joy and gladness. So prepare yourself for those better things to come. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may prepare myself for better things that God has in store for me. I pray that I may trust God for the future. All right, some great stuff here, guys. Going back to the big book real fast, I'll make this quick. I absolutely love on 159, just the early days of AA as it's forming. The key thing that they're realizing is service work has helped each one of them to stay sober. And it says right here on 159, they knew that they must help other alcoholics if they would remain sober. That motive became secondary. So that's interesting. The most important thing that they're learning, right here in the next line, it was transcended by the happiness they found in giving themselves for others. That seems like a paradox, right? That I'll be happier if I help somebody else. Go figure. It's an amazing program filled with paradoxes. But that seems to be what works for me, and I've seen it work for others as well. It's crazy. Anyways, my friends, if you are sober today, you're a miracle. And I'm sure that those who love you are very proud of you. As always, I'm just a guy. I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA, Al-Anon, or anything like that. I'm just a friend in recovery, reading some books that have helped me personally. And I hope that this podcast somehow is helping you. If we are given a new set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.